Hey everyone, it's Dr. Ramani. What did you learn from your narcissistic relationship? Drop it in the comments, because that's what I'm going to teach you here, is some of the things we can learn from narcissistic people. And I'm Dr. Ramani. Welcome to this YouTube channel on narcissism. So what can we learn from them? You might say, what? Learn? I'm like, yep, learn. Because let's face it, narcissistic people should all be life coaches, right? They're quite successful. They're overrepresented in leadership positions. They make more money. They're more successful at dating. It seems like maybe we could learn something from them, right? Now, you may be bristling at this, saying, how dare you tell me what I can learn from someone who's been so awful and abusive? I get it. But let's be a little paradoxical here. We have to pull something good out of this, or the whole thing was a waste of time, right? And you'll see the best we can do is to get some half lessons from them. So bear with me and watch this. Watch it to the end because you're going to learn some good stuff. Number one thing we learn from narcissistic people, empathy is a time suck. I am not arguing ever against empathy. I'm very pro-empathy. But part of the reason that narcissistic people can be so efficient is that they don't care. They aren't ever going to listen to someone else's problems unless it's a win for them. They don't spend their time checking in with people. They don't take the time to talk with someone who's struggling, so they save a lot of time. Think about it. You have a friend who's going through something. You have a very big, busy day at work, some deadlines and other stuff going on, and you're wiped out. But you still may build time into your day to call them or get into some back and forth texting with them. And now you're more tired and also may feel depleted because you're worrying about them. You may also spend time on remembering birthdays, doing favors for people, giving someone a drive who needs it, even if it's a little bit out of your way. That's all time. Here's what we learn. Empathy and compassion require time. I believe time well spent, but they do take time. So what do we learn? That the next time you want to beat yourself up about why you don't feel efficient or wonder why the narcissistic people around you seem to get more done than you or seem to have so much more time for themselves, or you get flack from narcissistic folks who say, why can't you get more done? You do get stuff done. But the empathy means you're doing more stuff than them because you're also doing and being for others. It's like you and the narcissistic person are both on a hike, but the narcissistic person has nothing on their back and you're carrying a 100-pound backpack. You are going to be slower and you're going to be more exhausted at the end. And you know what? It's worth it. Number two thing we could learn from them, you can certainly learn how to advocate for yourself. I don't know whether I would say that what narcissistic people do is actually advocating for themselves. Entitlement is really not about advocacy. It's about expecting special treatment and bulldozering over other people. But most survivors of narcissistic abuse will put themselves last. They won't even put themselves in the middle of the pack. They'll put themselves last. Often don't advocate for themselves, and as a result may miss opportunities or lose out altogether. In a way, we got to kind of watch how the narcissistic people do it. Now, I know in some cases part of it's privilege, there's no doubt about that. But narcissistic people, even when they aren't super privileged, they don't just sit there. They remind people that they are there in that annoying, demanding, I'm so important, like, miss, when am I going to get seated kind of complain fest that is the narcissistic person. They get seated fast. Let me give you an example. I was at the pharmacy, maybe I even talked about it on this channel, but I was at the pharmacy. It was a really long line, and I had to pick up a certain medication in person. There's a guy in the back of the line, about 4 people behind from me, and he was grumbling. How can this take so long? What the hell is wrong with these people? I can't believe I'm wasting my time like this, blah, blah, blah. The line keeps going, and then it was my turn. I'm up. There was a little glitch with mine, so I was asked to stand aside while she pulled it, but then she would give it to me right away. Then the awful man was the next in line, and there were like 2 people, 2 registers open. He must not have seen that I was asked to step aside and that I would be called right back in to get my stuff, so no one should have come up to that register. But when the lady opened up, he went right up and didn't ask if it was his turn. And me, poor self-advocator that I am, I just let him do that and didn't make a fuss and probably wasted another 5 or 6 minutes. Advocacy doesn't mean acting like an a-hole like him, but it would have been stepping in for myself because she was clearly ready for me instead of waiting longer and having my ridiculous fawn response like, ooh, I better let that person go ahead of me. Now, this advocacy thing goes a step further with the idea that we can also learn from the narcissistic people on how to toot our own horn. They are very good at arrogant preening and yammering on about all the things that they've done and all the things they know and how smart they are. Now, obviously, that's not the right approach, but they're actually very good at getting in there and letting people know, what they can do, even if it's not true. Folks who have been through narcissistic relationships, especially if you're raised by narcissistic parents, often lose sight of that after years of being gaslighted. At least being self-possessed of what you know so you can advocate for yourself in a job search or a promotion is important. It certainly doesn't have to be, and it shouldn't be, arrogant posturing. But it can be being forthcoming about what you know and not selling yourself short. Self-advocacy gets lost in a narcissistic relationship. Take some of it back and sort of do a more tempered version of it, but learn what your gifts are and be okay at times communicating about them. The third thing they're really good at, self-care. These narcissistic folks, they'll be sure to get their workout in and take the time to make their kale smoothie and make their golf game and go to bed at the time that works for them and do their mantras or whatever. Selfishness really helps with self-care. What if you aren't selfish? What are you supposed to do then? Narcissistic people have no problem having another person take on the lion's share of caregiving or other responsibilities, or just not making themselves available because they'll say it's their boundary and it's their self-care time. No matter that someone else had to give up so they could self-care. Now, of course, their self-care is often predicated on other people not getting to care for themselves. So they may do things like take time out of your family schedule to do a 3-hour workout with just the trainer they want in just the place they want, right? Whatever small thing you can do, because you're not going to do the 3-hour fancy workout, but even if you could build a little time for exercise with a routine, or take a little time to make the thing you want to eat for lunch, whatever it looks like. It's so easy to lose sight of even a shred of self-care when you are juggling a toxic relationship. You do not have to negate other people to do so, but do it. And that is why when that whole new brigade of people out there with these are the 15 things you need to do each day to live to 150, the amount of time it would take to do the things on that list, it is not lost on me that the best way to live to 150 years of age is to never have to deal with the needs of another human being, so you can make the potions and do the workouts and eat the way they tell you to. There you go. Number 4 thing we can learn from them. Narcissistic people don't hold back. So how does the old saying go? It goes basically, narcissism is the one mental health issue where other people have to go to therapy, right? Narcissistic people are quite dysregulated, so they don't hold back on what they say. They express their emotions, and often not their vulnerable emotions, but certainly their angry ones. If they have a strong feeling, the world is going to know it. Now, they're often expressing these emotions by being explosive and hostile, which actually isn't good for their health either, but they are not usually internalizing and holding back for fear of upsetting other people. Interestingly, like I said, while they may have the explosive, angry emotions, they're not good at the vulnerable ones. But what can we learn from this? We can learn that it is important to share our emotions, just not with them. Don't bottle them up, and whether you do this in therapy, with a friend, or in some other safe space, share them. Don't scream your emotions, don't lash out at other people, but express your emotions. Most folks in narcissistic relationships hold their emotions back because your feelings are shamed. Find a place to do it and do it. They do. Number 5, narcissistic people kind of have order and control in their lives, right? Now, for narcissistic people, it involves being controlling. They control it all, and they control everyone, including the narrative. And obviously the level of control they really, really want is impossible, so they're never quite satisfied. But they also live a life that works to their specifications. This can be manifested by almost obsessive demands that things have to be a certain way or unfold in a certain order. Now that's not healthy. As long as there's more than one person involved and all the vagaries of life that can happen, nothing is ever fully in our control. And frankly, we know that this idea of control is an illusion. But there are things we can do in our lives so we can feel a bit more on top of things. We can have a space where we put things away in a way that makes sense to just us. Or have one place in our life where our minds feel clear. To have a little bit of control over a schedule, even if it's an aspirational one for us. But this can start with something as small as organizing a few drawers the way we want in our lives. Narcissistic people may seem like they are always living in an angry, self-serving storm, but they often carry far less stress than everyone else because they take it out on others and live their lives according to their specifications. Now, what we can learn is that sometimes we can say, hey, it's my turn in the pharmacy line, in a polite manner, or at least allow ourselves to have an organized backpack or underwear drawer, or even if we can't say it yet, perhaps be willing to write down a list of our accomplishments to share with the boss or file away at the time of a promotion. And maybe, just maybe, we could build in a few minutes for some exercise or to make a healthy lunch. And we can do these things without losing our compassion, empathy, and decency. But that empathy, yeah, it'll always slow you down. And in that case, the slowing down, it's well worth it. Because when it comes to compassion and empathy, slow and steady do win the race. And success isn't just the job title or money in the bank, but the people with whom you have deep, sustaining, respectful, mutual, and reciprocal relationships. And that is something they will never have, and perhaps that is something they can learn from you. So maybe in some ways, we certainly don't want to go all in on the things they do, but some of the tidbits that they drop out there, they're tiny bits we can learn for ourselves. And if nothing else, because of some of the things we see, for example, the efficiency that comes from empathy, instead of beating ourselves up for not being efficient enough, perhaps be compassionate with ourselves and say, I was there for someone who needed me today. You may not have gotten everything done, but you may have done the most important thing of all. Thanks again.